What if I told you a truck driver cracked the code to building a crypto empire? Meet Bitcoin Ben. He went from driving 18-wheelers to creating 6 different ways for regular people to stack Bitcoin and build wealth. This isn't just another crypto course. This is a complete ecosystem where you earn while you learn. First up, the confidential bulk purchase program. Get Bitcoin at wholesale prices through group buying power. Then there's Home to HODL. Convert your home equity directly into Bitcoin instead of cash. Need funding? The Loans for Bitcoin program gets you the capital to buy more crypto. Want passive income? Private Key Capital puts your Bitcoin to work. Hungry for something different? Bitcoin Ben's tokenized beef lets you invest in real cattle backed by blockchain technology. And if you want to mine? Bitcoin Ben's mining program gets you started with the right equipment and knowledge. But here's the kicker. Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club pays you to learn. Earn 10% on direct referrals, 5% on second level, 2% on third level. This might be the only membership where you make more than you pay. Ben went from 10 years behind the wheel to becoming the world's most unlikely crypto expert. Now he's sharing everything through live training, community events, and proven systems that work. Ready to stop watching from the sidelines? Join Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club today and start stacking sats while building your financial future. Your truck driving days are over. Your crypto empire starts now.
And we are live. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Bitcoin Ben, your favorite truck driver, ex-truck driver in the world, here with a very special guest, Jordan Sather. How are you, brother?
Doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No. I thank you. Because I think I originally saw your show maybe like 2016. Is that I think so. And you just blew me away with how much research and how you look at something and then you turn it, you look at this way, you look at that way, you look at every point of view you can possibly look at it from. And the reason I wanted to have you on the show was there's so much going on non-economic out in the world, that because everything eventually touches economics,
Of course.
they're very relevant.
Yes.
And I was wanting you to kind of explain what you're watching, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, because you have a lot of relationships all over the world, basically. And number one, could you, for everyone who hasn't watched your show, could you explain your journey real quick and how you reach where you're at?
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick backstory there. I started waking up to and questioning the world. I was quite young, early 20s. This was around 2011, 2012. And my first topic that really started to, make the gears turn in my head was pharmaceuticals, big pharma, because I was working in the supplement industry. I was managing a retail supplement store in the Pacific Northwest and started seeing the nature of truth about vaccines, fluoride, genetically engineered food, how we're just sold so many lies about health from the establishment so they can keep us sick, so we can buy their drugs, so we can just be stupid and gelatinous slobs. So researching into big pharma, I traced back the history. And then a lot of the history with the pharmaceutical industry, at least in this country, really starts in the early 1900s, 1910s and 20s, with the Rockefeller family and the Carnegie family. And we don't have to get into all the minutia of how they began sort of censoring and suppressing natural health out of the system to get their allopathic pharmacology drugs sold. But it was really the Rockefellers and the Carnegies. A lot of these industrialist families. So I started also researching what else were these industrialist families involved in the early 1900s. And then the threads just connected. So, of course, these are banking families, oil baron banking families, Rockefellers, Carnegies, Rothschilds, and others. So I started following the rabbit hole and looking into the Federal Reserve and all the issues with fiat bullshit, money, them setting up the Federal Reserve in the 1913, right? And then it also led me into, well, not only were these pharmaceutical families, banking families, but also oil, gas, coal. And that led me into researching these suppressed energy technologies and suppressed propulsion technologies that they've been lying to us about, suppressing inventors, all sorts of stuff for 80, 90, 100 years, like Nikola Tesla and others. I've always had quite a unique interest in the sort of UFO, secret space program space, and advanced technologies they hide from us. So anyway, I just followed the thread and went down this rabbit hole that connects to this one, that connects to this one, and everything else. And that was around 2011, 2012, and it really just blew my mind. Years later, this was around the end of 2016, early 2017. I was inspired by a few different issues around that time. One was the WikiLeaks emails that came out, the whole John Podesta email charade with all the food code words and crap in there, right? So I saw those WikiLeaks emails come out and like, man, no media is touching this, mainstream media, and even in the alternative media, not many people were using social media. There were a few, but not many people were using social media at that point to speak about these huge things all going on underneath the surface. Another thing that inspired me as well was the aftermath of the presidential election. Granted, in 2016 with that election, I was just checked out of politics. I thought that everybody was just an Illuminati puppet, Hillary and Trump and everybody. So I didn't vote. I checked out. But after seeing I was fully expecting Hillary Clinton to win. Not that I wanted her to, but I was fully expecting it. So when Trump won, I was shocked. I wasn't sold on him yet, but I was shocked. And then seeing the Russiagate fallout after that as well, all the Russia collusion nonsense, which another thing that we saw the mainstream media drive these lying narratives to the public about, and yet there was hardly anybody in social media, alternative media speaking about these things. So that inspired me to start a YouTube channel called Destroying the Illusion. And I really started doing at least a video a day, if not 2 or 3, about sort of my 3 primary interests, which were health, alternative and suppressed technologies, and political happenings. So that's kind of where the YouTube channel took off. And 2017, 2018, 2019, it grew and grew until 2020. Right before the 2020 election was when YouTube shit canned me, and huge censorship purge. I'm sure you lost a few accounts on a few platforms. I lost YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, PayPal, Patreon, dozen more in the span of like a week right before the 2020 election. So that hit hard, but ended up migrating over to the alternative platforms, Rumble, Telegram, True Social. And then here we are a few years later. Times are changing again. I was able to get Twitter back after Elon bought it. I was able to get my YouTube channel back just a few weeks ago after Trump settled with Google.
Super.
Yep. Facebook is the only one I never went back to. I did start a new Instagram account, and I think Zuck has bent the knee and caved, and I haven't noticed any censorship on Instagram, God willing. But things, at least in the social media space, seem to be getting better. Now, they're not perfect. I got my YouTube channel back with no monetization, don't even have the option to apply. So there's still issues in the big tech sphere, but at least we're able to get back into sort of the main battleground platforms, if you will. So I think that's a good thing. And I'm still trucking along on all of the all my personal platforms. And then I work with a media company called Badlands Media as well. It's a group. We have probably 15 to 20 different podcasters.
Yep. Sort of. I have a friend who is actually on there.
Is that G?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bitcoin figured, and yeah, G does the Bitcoin show on it.
I love that guy.
Yep. G does the Bitcoin show on it. I do a show called Maha News every Friday, health oriented show. We've got some political shows on there and some non-political shows too, but it's just sort of like a comprehensive look with it's true independent media, right? It's true independent media. And sort of that. So that kind of, I don't know if you have any more questions about the backstory there. Let me know if you do, but I guess we can kind of springboard into maybe speaking about the current state of the planet.
Yeah, the reason I wanted you to explain who you were and how long, because what I've always appreciated on how you have done your shows is you really research. You are one of the few who realize this is a long agenda.
Yeah.
You know, this is early like 1900s, late 1800s agenda.
I mean, that's even the short agenda. We could, of
Oh, I
course, go
know.
back centuries, if not millennia, but
Yes.
at least looking at this country and explaining why things are the way they are right now, maybe 100 years. But oh yeah, we could go back probably thousands and speak about the slave systems that have been running this planet. But you know, right now, it's a very unique fight we're in, and I think the internet in particular is a tool that, you know, it can be a tool that you can be used for danger, of course, but it is also a tool with a lot of potential in helping to free our society. And I think in terms of information, in terms of finances, in terms of economics and many other things, we're starting to learn how to use this thing we call the internet to be able to help free us from the slave systems, but more importantly, free our minds from the slave systems. Now, again, there's still a lot of crap to work through. There's still a lot of propaganda, whether it's coming from the mainstream or there's a lot of people with propaganda or their own narratives they try to inject onto social media. But hey, at least conversations are getting flowing and we're able to share alternative or even alternative to the alternative information on these platforms. So it's great.
Yeah, let's roll through what you're seeing now, what is really like got your attention, and then I want to actually talk about a little history of how we got here. Then I have a friend who I don't know if you guys are friends or not. He's an old guy. God damn it, what is it? Cliff High.
Oh yeah, Cliff. Yep.
And he would be mad if you and I actually didn't talk woo woo, and I mean the Elohim and all of the good shit from the old days, you know. So let's roll in on what you are seeing now, and what are the red flags you're seeing right now, and what do you see this leading to, I guess?
Cool. Good question, man. So I think to answer that, I'll take a step back and look at it from a very high view, 40,000 foot view, stratospheric view. So I'm seeing what's going on right now is the decentralization of all these control structures on our planet, whether it's media and education, whether it's food and health, whether it's energy, whether it's finances. We are working to decentralize the power away from the, centralized powers that ought not be. So through finances, we're doing that through cryptocurrency, particularly Bitcoin, not the shit coins. Because a lot of those shit coins are centralized. They have a core group of programmers and developers that, oversee that coin. So sure,
XRP.
if you want to sure. Yeah, exactly. WEF coin. So sure, if you want to day trade those because they're more volatile, go for it. But in the grand scheme of things, those shit coins are still centralized coins. And I know a lot of people out there love XRP, but at the end of the day, XRP, partnering with the World Economic Forum, still have a centralized developer team that issue the coins. No, the reason I like Bitcoin is that you don't know who controls it. Nobody controls it, right? So truly decentralized. And then in terms of, we can get into media and education. That's kind of self-explanatory. We're here talking on this podcast. We're all on social media, whether it's Twitter, True Social, Telegram. We're using these platforms to decentralize media. We are the new media. Mainstream media is becoming more and more irrelevant as time goes on, as they continue to expose themselves as being retarded, evil idiots. we are taking that power back in terms of media and also decentralizing education as well. A lot more people are homeschooling or at least getting involved if their kids are going to public school, which, there's a lot of people out there that just can't homeschool. That's totally fine. Their kids are going to public schools, then they're at least getting involved in their child's public schools and making sure there's no weird pride flags in their kids' classrooms or something like that. So we are decentralizing power with media and education, food and pharma as well. I think RFK Jr. is doing a kick-ass job. I love what he's doing. Even before RFK Jr., the decentralization of big food and pharma really picked up because COVID, right? People simply getting interested in health or realizing how screwed up the system is. And they're like, I need to go buy land and homestead. And so many more people are just getting into gardening and having chickens and being able to sustain themselves with food. Or they're realizing the education I'm getting from the colleges and the health authorities out there sucks. So I'm going to educate myself and get more inspired to be my own doctor and get healthy again. So decentralization in that regard. And also with, we touched on finances, media, food. Then we've got energy. Now, energy is a tough one because we can't necessarily decentralize individually when it comes to energy. We need sort of organizations, companies to build systems to help decentralize us away from the energy means we've been using for decades and decades. But I think that's being done. You've got a lot of small startups that are looking into nuclear technology, but not nuclear that we think of from the 1960s with those big water stacks, steam stacks, and big power lines still hooked into one reactor. A decentralized nuclear technology could be and is being developed and rolled out to the public is thorium, SMRs, small modular reactors based on thorium cooled with molten salt cooled thorium reactors. And the cool thing about these is that they're very small. They're about the size of a semi truck. So they can be produced on a line, modular, and then driven out or flown out to where they need to go, whether it's a military forward operating base or whether it's a small town in Alaska that needs some power. And then you won't have to have as many giant power lines, because that's the issue with energy decentralization, is that whether it's a wind farm and solar farm or whether it's a coal plant, you got to have these big power lines traversing hundreds of miles of earth and then leading into your neighborhood or your home. There's a meter on your home. So I see going forward these kinds of decentralized energy technologies coming out that sort of cut the power cord, cut the power line. I think over the next maybe 5-10 years, one of those will be small modular nuclear reactors that are far more safe and far less dangerous than the nuclear we think of from the 50s and 60s and 70s. Also, another decentralized energy tech that I think is on a little further of a timeline, but it's absolutely being developed by a lot of countries and a lot of corporations, is space-based solar power. I don't like solar power land-based unless it's like a flashlight or a power bank with a little solar cell on it. I'll use those. But in terms of putting solar panels either on the ground, maybe on a house. I've seen some on a house that are kind of neat, having batteries and charging it that way. So in case power goes down for a few days, you have some backups. But in terms of like powering our grid, solar cells, I mean, they have square miles and square miles of these super inefficient solar cells, and then the ground under it becomes totally useless. And trying to power our cities with solar cells is terrible. But you put those solar cells in space where they're gathering photons from the sun 24 hours a day, as opposed to land-based solar cells that don't work at night. So they're gathering energy from the sun 24 hours a day. It's a lot more intense energy from the sun because it's not being obscured by the atmosphere. And there are ways to beam that power to the surface via radio waves. So energy gets converted into radio waves in space. Those radio waves beam down to Earth, And then all you need is a little device called a rectenna, and a rectenna converts electromagnetic waves into usable electricity to power whatever it may be. So imagine that we have solar cells in space via satellites, beam this power down to Earth, and then we have a little rectenna in all of our devices, whether it's our electric car, whether it's this computer, whether it's just a phone, and everything's trickle charging from these radio waves that are raining down on Earth. This is essentially what Nikola Tesla, granted, Nikola Tesla wasn't envisioning satellites in orbit. He was trying to do this with his Wardenclyffe Tower, but that's what he's trying to do. Send energy with radio waves that are converted to usable electricity to power our infrastructure. So this is being developed right now. And give it maybe 10, 15, 20 years, I think there will be parts of our grid being powered with these, and it's far more decentralized, right? Because if all of our stuff was just trickle charging with radio waves raining down on us, we might not have to plug our phones in to charge them ever again. Just like how now we have wireless phones that people in the 1970s would be like, "Oh my God, you don't need a landline. You don't need to plug that phone into the wall to call." It would blow their minds. Now, we still have to power these things though. So give it maybe 20 years, and then it'll be the same thing where people will think, "Oh my God, I can't believe you had to plug things in to charge it," right? That's when I would think about buying a Tesla. I wouldn't buy an electric vehicle right now because you only get 300 miles range and you got to plug it in all the time. But there might be a few use cases, I think, for electric vehicles. But I live where it's super cold in the winter and chargers are not plentiful. So for me, electric vehicle, not a good idea. But if you had a rectenna in that electric vehicle, and then we had these, solar farms in space, if you will, basically beaming radio waves down to Earth where those electric vehicles could convert to power, you might not ever have to plug that electric vehicle in. The range on it would effectively be unlimited, or at least till the gears wear down, or you got to change the tires. So it would be, the way I'm seeing, that's the decentralization of energy I'm seeing, which plays into the economy. Because then if we could rip our, if just being able to produce energy for manufacturing was so much cheaper and was able to be decentralized where you didn't have to have giant manufacturing facilities do it, but maybe smaller manufacturing facilities and closer to the towns that need the stuff, that would greatly affect our economy. So anyway, from the big perspective right now, I'm seeing this fight for decentralization that is progressing. Now, the powers that be, they're not dumb. These people aren't stupid. We often look at politicians and these, globalists being dumb, but they're not. They're very smart. They're just arrogant. So they're trying to co-opt the decentralization going on. And they're doing that by setting up individuals or groups or organizations that look like they're independent, that look like they're small business, locally grown, we're here for you, but they're actually owned by the big players. So, for instance, more specifics, media, I think some of these quote unquote alternative media, independent media influencers, a bunch of them are probably paid by some kind of deep state groups, right? To put out.
Let me chime in there real quick.
Please do.
I know for a fact of influencers who are actually getting paid from nonprofits.
Yep.
Or
they'll get paid through social media marketing companies.
Yes.
So social media marketing company will take lobbying dollars, and then that's how they kind of wash the money, is that goes through a couple steps, goes through a couple hands. So social media marketing company hires influencer. Social media marketing company takes lobbying dollars from industry, or they get paid by some NGO or something. And then social media marketing company pays the influencer to put out propaganda. I mean, I know some flat earth groups that have offered big money to big influencers to shill flat earth propaganda. I am quite confident that the Q movement over the last few years has been infiltrated by a bunch of retards that put a bunch of conspiracy clickbait into the Q movement to poison the well and water it down. I know in the UFO space, because I used to go to a bunch of UFO conferences, and I've produced a UFO documentary before. I think some of those individuals are compromised in particular ways and are disallowed from going too far on certain subjects. So whatever the niche of, I'm sure in the crypto space, there's shills taking crypto money to, promote scam coins and whatnot too. So yes, that is how the big players are trying to undermine the competition, is by controlling the competition in the media space, alternative media space. Big food, for sure. I mean, I have a supplement brand, so I'm very plugged into what's going on in the supplement and nutrition space. And we're seeing a lot of big corporations, particularly Nestle and Clorox, actually. Nestle and Clorox. They're buying up small supplement brands. And people think, oh, this is a small supplement brand. This isn't one of the big players. I'm not buying this at Walmart. But what you're buying is still either owned by Nestle or Clorox or Bayer. So, or it's coming from China. There's a lot of products on Amazon and Instagram and TikTok Shop that the packaging looks like it's from some local U.S. company. Meanwhile, it's just cheap shit being brought in here from China. So that's definitely how they're trying to undermine the decentralization and control the opposition, right? In the big food, big pharma space. In terms of what else did we go through?
Let me ask you, because I think AI is, I've explained it as AI is the newest representation of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Because if you control the definitions of reality, then you control everyone.
Well, the thing with AI, I mean, AI is just a tool, and it's only as good as the human programmers who program it, right? So you can use AI to really help you, and you can do a little bit of training with whatever chat bot to figure out certain things. And AI is a great tool that you can use. But at the same time, all these chat bots, whether it's Chat GPT or Elon just came out with his Grokpedia, and I was playing around with Grokpedia, and Grokpedia is retarded. It gives you a lot of propaganda answers. These AI chatbots are only as good as the language models or the data sets they're trained on. And the unfortunate thing right now is really the only large language sets we have to train these things are, most of them are Wikipedia. Wikipedia is used to train even Grokpedia that Elon's trying to set up as being a Wikipedia competitor. But it's still trained in somewhat on Wikipedia or ChatGPT or these others. Wikipedia is one, just because there's so much data on Wikipedia that, or Reddit. Reddit is another one used to train a lot of these AI chatbots, and Reddit is just a cesspool of left.
Oh, it's a swamp.
Idiocy. I believe Grokpedia, they use a little bit of Twitter, and then there's some proprietary data sets I'm sure they have that they train some of these AI chatbots with. But AI is only as good as the data you feed into it. Garbage in, garbage out, as they say. So you just have to be mindful of that. I don't think artificial intelligence is really that intelligent. It's just the humans that are training it. And even then, what are the intentions of those humans? Sure, even if their intentions are good, what's the data set? How good is the data set they have? So AI is, it's super helpful to scrub through a lot of data quickly, but in getting actual creative answers from it, it's just, you're only going to get what they put into it. So we can't outsource our thinking, our critical thinking, and our research to AI, which I'm seeing some people do. I've gotten argued with on Twitter, and people will share me screenshots of a Grok response. Like, you're wrong. Grok said this. Like, you idiot. Grok's clearly wrong about that.
That's exactly what I mean is people will use it as a reference of truth. Exactly like the Encyclopedia Britannica, which, if you know who actually set up the original Encyclopedia Britannica, that was the Illuminati of that age.
Mhm.
And they said, we will tell everyone what is real, what is applicable, and we'll set up the whole system so we can control everyone's image of the world.
Yeah,
Because
control their perceptions. Exactly.
absolutely. And I think that's what they're transitioning us into with AI, where eventually people will say, well, you're wrong because OpenAI says this, or you're wrong.
That's really nothing different than what people have been doing for decades with mainstream media. You're wrong because media or university said this. So it's the same thing. It's not like it's changing. It's just you have another authority. You have another authority to point to.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, the most important thing is to, okay, how do we get people to question authority? Whether that authority is government, university, organized religion, or AI. And I do think people are, breaking away and learning to stand out on their own. It's just mental courage it takes, and that's tough. Mental courage and moral courage is tougher for a lot of people than physical courage. But
Amen, brother.
yeah, it's just how do we get people to have the mental courage to question whatever it is that they need to question, and also have the critical thinking to search for answers for themselves, but also have the humility to understand that some things we might not have answers to. Maybe we have evidence that points a particular direction, but because we're humans with very limited perspective, we just have to understand that some things we might not know the answer to, even though people claim there's answers and they claim those are facts they have. Yeah, some things we might just not know, and we might never know. So we have to be humble enough to sit in that space of, I don't know. I might not know. I have an idea, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Hang on one second, guys. We'll be right back after this important commercial break.
Are you buying and selling cryptos on the same laptop that you're using to browse the internet, read your email, and visit social media sites? If so, you're exposing your cryptos to theft. Whenever you're online, you're at risk of getting hacked and having your identity stolen. How would you feel if someone stole all of your cryptos? What would that do to your finances? Guard your cryptos with a safe and secure laptop from Calyx Solutions. Each laptop is set up just for you and your cryptos, and then we walk you through exactly how it works. Don't risk the security of your cryptos. Order a crypto laptop from Calyx Solutions now to secure your crypto future. Learn more at calyxsolutions.io.
All right, we are back. All right, Jordan. While I have you, could you look back in his history and point out a few very important people or events that you can show people that will explain how this is a 100, 200, 600,000 year journey that just repeats itself over and over again, and where could you point people to, or who would you point people to, where we could get a historical view of the agenda?
Yeah, that's tough. I'll be honest. I'm not the biggest expert on historical matters when it comes to that large of a time frame, and even on the last 100 years, there's a few points that I can point to, but the minutia and the finer details, I like to be more of a jack of all trades, expert of maybe one or two, but not trying to be everything. At least in terms of the last 100 years, of course, we were describing the 1900s and 1910s, and you have the Carnegies with their Flexner report. That's how they one defining moment in them clamping down on the healthcare system. Then you have the setup of the Federal Reserve in 1913, and then there are a few instances in the Rockefeller control of the education system as well, through about that time, 10s, 20s, 30s, where they were setting up standardized testing through the Department of Education and trying to consolidate and centralize education. I think some very defining moments. Well, one is the World Wars, and it's of my belief that both of the World Wars, 1 and 2 especially, were, same global interests controlling both sides. And how much control of both sides and who exactly were controlled and what was their agenda, we don't have the exact answers to, but I do think that both the Ally and Axis powers, there were behind-the-scenes interests influencing and manipulating both sides to, enhance particular agendas. And it just so happened that the quote-unquote allies, quote-unquote, won the war. So, okay, when they chose, I guess, the side who was going to win, after World War II, what did we see? We saw a lot of those Nazi scientists get brought into America under Operation Paperclip and get put into the systems whereby a lot of them essentially just kept up their same agendas, but now under just a different flag in a different country. So some of those Nazi scientists went into the aerospace industry, they went into media, they went into biotech, and they went into other industries as well. So that kind of explains how the last 70 years that we've seen the mainstream media in this country, a lot of their propaganda techniques are like very Joseph Goebbels-esque, and the way they've built up some of their bio labs and the creepy research they've done with genetics and the aerospace too. We can look to the aerospace industry, jet propulsion industry, and find some of those influences from World War II powers here in this country. So I think that's one defining moment. Also, another defining moment, it seems like each generation has, in kind of more of a positive light here, has a defining moment that flips a switch in a lot of people's heads to get them questioning. So the boomers had JFK. JFK got a lot of people questioning when he was assassinated and, who actually did it and all of that. For the Gen Xers, it's probably 9/11. And 9/11 woke up a lot of Gen X folks. I was quite young, 11, 12. So my generation, I'm mid-millennial, not quite for us. But 9/11 for the Gen Xers and some boomers as well, right? Got them questioning. And then my generation would be COVID. Had a lot of friends start waking up after COVID, and that really flipped a switch in a lot of, and of course, older generations too as well. But for my millennial friends, that one, COVID was big. And who knows what it will be for the Gen Zers out there, but give it 10 years, there might be something that happens. Whether it's, human-oriented or maybe a naturally oriented event, but something will happen to help flip the switch in them. Granted, the younger generations, as opposed to Gen Xers and boomers, they got the internet. So, man, I actually have some faith in these younger generations because they're growing up questioning authority. That's the big thing with Gen Zers, is that, that unfortunately for the boomers grew up being told to just accept whatever the teacher or the religious cleric or the government says. And they didn't have many options to hear alternative viewpoints. So they were just socially engineered to accept what they were given. And I think that's why it's tough for some boomers to kind of question authority, is because that's just how that generation grew up, somewhat for the Gen Xers too. My generation was the first to have internet as children. And it wasn't great internet. It was dial up and there wasn't much we could do with it, maybe some instant messenger. But we grew up with this, kind of worldwide connected tool. So I think the millennials started to, I see a lot of people in my generation that are long gone, right? They're bought off into the social programming. But at least I see a few. It's like the younger each generation gets, the more polarized it becomes, where you got a few that buy into the crap and they polarize way far into it. But the ones that don't buy the crap, they get more and more engaged and passionate about undoing it. And I see with the Gen Zers, sure, there's a few Gen Zers that are bought into the crap and they're very polarized into the social engineering from the establishment. But the Gen Zers that do have, they seem to have a little bit more mental courage than the older generations, even mine. With my experiences of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're not afraid to question authority. They're not afraid to question the experts. And they have this internet tool with social media that they grew up with that no other generation had. So they learn how to acquire alternative information, and they can spot scams pretty quick. Granted, the younger generation, they don't take criticism well. Whereas, boomers, Gen Xers, they definitely have more of like a sense of humor. They can take criticism. They can flip shit to each other. Millennials somewhat. I think my generation was the first one that started getting a little soft. And you got some millennials that, they can take a joke and they can flip a joke right back. And they can take some constructive criticism. But there's some millennials that they'll start to get, if you criticize them a bit. The Gen Zers, they don't take criticism well. And I don't...
Yeah, let me jump in here real quick. Is what I saw, because I have 3 kids. All of them are actually grown. Our youngest was supposed to graduate high school right when everything was like shut down. And she once said, I've lost more friends to suicide than I did COVID. And I think that really woke her up. She was like, I don't know any friends who died of COVID, but I know several kids who actually died because of the situation it really created.
So is she in her early mid-20s now?
Yes, she's 24, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a lot of when I was younger, I had a lot of friends get into drugs, and a lot of disconnection between, because we don't have communities anymore. We don't pre-internet, even 1950s.
You are so right with that.
But back in,
right with that.
1800s, pretty much any point in our history before like the 80s and 90s, the communities were a lot more tight-knit, whether it was community garden or local churches or meetup groups or something, right? Local interest-oriented meetup groups that people actually meeting face-to-face instead of over the internet. Things were a lot more tight-knit. It's through all this disconnection that's caused people to be depressed, and then they point towards drugs or COVID especially. I mean, people were completely disconnected. They literally weren't allowed to leave the house. So it depressed a lot of people. And yeah, it's I think what we need to do going forward is have some faith in these younger generations and get them to thicken their skin a bit, take some constructive criticism. But at the same time, we need to play to their potential too, because I see a lot of people just shit on the younger generations. Some of that might be jealousy. They're jealous of how the younger generations have this mental courage to stand out and be different. But at the same time, there are some problems with the younger generations, and we need to play to their strengths, but also help them with their weaknesses. And then regardless of generation, to the point you just brought up, we need to find and build communities again, whether it's, no matter what it's about, whether it is more of a spiritually or church-oriented local network, or whether it's a local network with self-sustainability. So growing gardens and farms and local networks around building things that we can all help each other with. Whatever it is, man, we need to bring that back somehow. The internet's a helpful tool to find people in your area with similar interests to create meetup groups, but it's got to be face-to-face. Nothing beats face-to-face, right? So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can remember when I was young. I mean, everyone hung out with everyone. We'd have like neighborhood, hell, I don't know, like events, and we'd have barbecues. We'd all hang out and sit and bullshit and hang out. And they don't really do that in this younger generation. Or if they do, it's online. I have a lot of friends who kids are online for like 4 hours a night, and they'll explain it as hanging out with their friends.
Yeah, I mean, there are some positives in that, because I did that when I was young, hanging out with friends online, being online for hours, and there is some value to that. But at the same time, face to face, just hanging out, kids being kids, going off into the woods and doing whatever the hell. We got to get back to that in some regard, but I'm not necessarily anti video games. One thing that gives me hope is how the kids playing the video games are talking shit to each other again.
Yes.
Because that was when I was in my teen years and early 20s. Man, the Call of Duty chats was just curse words everywhere and people flipping shit. And oh my gosh, I wouldn't want those chat logs leaked. But after that, it seemed like safe spaces started to get created where you can't say that online. You'll get banned for saying that online. And then it made kids soft again.
Yep.
But now I'm seeing some of those just out of pocket chats come back with the younger kids. I'm talking like 12-year-olds to early teenagers. They're talking shit online again, and it's great.
As they should. I completely encourage that.
Yeah. But right, if they're just online all the time, then that's a problem. I mean, if it's late at night, if it's midnight, I honestly would rather have my kid playing video games with his friends and being out roaming the streets, doing who knows what. So there's a time and place where video game connection could be better than in-person connection, but it's out of balance right now, and we got to get that in-person back.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I don't want to keep you much longer because I know you have shit to do like we all do. The thing I wanted to touch on to see what you knew of it is the 3-eye atlas, or whatever's heading towards us.
Yeah. I think it's heading away from us now.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Frankly, I've seen a lot of theories promoted about. Frankly, I haven't given a shit about this 3-eye atlas thing, primarily because many of the theories about it or interest in it has been promoted by UFO gatekeepers, people who I think are kind of gatekeepers around the whole UFO narrative. So let me backtrack a sec. I've been interested in the UFO black projects. What do they actually have? What have they done? What's really going on with life in the cosmos topic? I've been very interested in it since about 2011. In 2017, and this was kicked off by the New York Times articles with their black and white videos. I'm sure you've seen 1,000 times, the Tic Tacs and all that. I started to see this set of mainstream voices get propped up by mainstream media, whether it's a mainstream media website, journalist website, or Netflix. Netflix has been setting up a lot of them, or Congress. Oh, they're coming to the congressional hearings. We got a new whistleblower now. That term's been overused, whistleblower. But I've been seeing these gatekeeper voices get propped up to the public and basically forced in front of the public since 2017. Same voices you see in the popular documentaries, in the congressional hearings, doing the media interviews on News Nation or CNN. Now with the 3-eye atlas thing, most of the mysterious narratives on it, like, oh, it could be aliens, could be an alien mothership, could be a surveillance probe sent here by extraterrestrials or whatever. Most of the headlines I've seen about that have been words said by a guy named Avi Loeb. He is a scientist. He's a scientist from Harvard. He has been propped up as, in my opinion, one of those gatekeepers over the last 5-6 years by the media. And he has an NGO that he calls the Galileo Project. And the stated goal of this Galileo Project is to search for signs of extraterrestrial signatures or life in the cosmos, essentially. And some of those same gatekeepers are, I think, directors on his Galileo Project. So like Lou Elizondo and some of these other mainstream names now. Avi Loeb for like months now has been just saying crazy things like, oh, 3A Atlas is an alien probe and all this sort of stuff. And then the media will report on it and say, scientific experts suggest that 3A Atlas could be an alien probe or a mothership spitting off whatever, alien probes. So that's the expert that they're pointing to. Most mainstream media articles. And it just doesn't interest me. Maybe it is an unusual object, but what's it doing? What's it doing to us? Other than kind of distracting us and taking our imaginations, letting our imaginations run wild. And at this point, in large part, I don't think all of the narratives promoted out there online about UFOs and aliens are bad. I think some of them are consciousness expanding, like Cliff High. I like to listen to Cliff and just see what that crazy old bastard has to say.
He's wild.
I don't agree with everything, but I don't disagree with everything because I don't know and he doesn't know, but he has some damn good thoughts he puts out there that simply help expand perspective. But yeah, a lot of this 3A Atlas stuff, I think a lot of it's clickbait, honestly. Clickbait from the mainstream media. And it's fun to have theories about, but we don't know. We just don't.
Yeah, as I watched it roll out and all of exactly what you said, expert from blah 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 university says it could be an alien probe. And I'm like, well, number one, I don't trust the universities. Number two, I definitely don't trust, quote unquote, the experts.
Right.
And I definitely don't trust when CNN or NBC are like, hey, look here. They're not showing you the truth. They're showing you what they want you to see. And then I watched an interview with him and Joe Rogan, and all I heard was, we need to get government to give us money.
Exactly. He's got a vested interest in promoting those narratives because Mr. Avi Loeb has a research organization, a nonprofit research organization that collects money to research extraterrestrial signatures. So that's why, just because
someone's making profit in that nonprofit,
just because headline says, or it's all he said, she said stuff. So headline says that expert says that this thing is a thing. So what? So what? Big deal.
All right. Before we wrap up, I just want to ask you a simple yes and no question. Do you think that humans were created in the past by a group that was not originally from here?
Oh man, you can't yes and no that.
Yeah.
For the most part. So I do think that humanoid life is sort of a blueprint. I think it's likely that humanoid type life is somewhat of an archetype or a blueprint that's probably found commonly throughout our cosmos, throughout the universe. Granted, at least on this planet, I think there was some more unevolved primate life that didn't have much self-awareness. And I do think it's quite possible that maybe even I'd say probable that some group from somewhere else in the universe came here and tinkered with a few genes that then created life, human life, as we know it today. And I think these particular groups that came here and tinkered with us are referenced in many ancient scriptures from around the world by a variety of different names. Not just the not just the Christian oriented wordings, Enoch, Nephilim, fallen angels, all that. But you can look at Nordic mythology and mythology from Aboriginals in Australia or Africa, or Sumerian texts, especially, right? Enki and Enlil from the Sumerian texts. Sure, some of the details between these ancient scriptures might be a little different, but the general story is actually quite similar between all of them. And sometimes we relegate them to myth, but how were these myths created, and why are a lot of these quote-unquote myths so similar from all these cultures that supposedly had no contact with each other? So, yeah, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think we have scientific evidence that
Lloyd Pye,
proves-
yeah.
Exactly.
Lloyd Pye
And,
and his Star Child skull, and he was actually looking into human DNA and figuring out, well, why are these two chromosomes fused? And what's going on with all this junk DNA? And blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I mean, there's missing links that mainstream science often says, like, how did we go from Mongoloid Neanderthals to upright rock walking hairless humans with these frontal lobes so quick? And mainstream science is obsessed with finding these missing links, but maybe there are no missing links because we were tinkered with maybe, some odd tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago, relatively recently in the span of things. So,
well, if you look at just what we can actually do now, I mean, if you want a child with blonde hair and blue eyes, we can literally program you a child now.
Yep.
And if we can do it, then why would we assume that in all of the universes that there isn't another group out there, or multiple groups, who have that same technology, look at Earth and say, ooh, natural resources, let's
right. And I would venture to guess that some of these groups that we're referring to, there's probably different groups with different agendas. So one group wanted to tinker with life here to create somewhat of a slave race that could mine resources or worship them as gods or what have you. There's probably some groups that had more darker evil agendas, service to self agendas, but there's probably groups as well that wanted to help the life on this planet grow and evolve as like a social experiment, just to help life mature and more of like a positive agenda, right? So that's why it's kind of murky. I think there are extraterrestrial intelligences out there in the cosmos, more advanced than us, but they have a variety of agendas, and we humans here, we're kind of spiritual retards at the moment, trying to figure out how the cosmos actually works. So anyway, we can go just long conversation, but yeah, I think we're on the same page there.
Absolutely. All right, Jordan, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I wish you luck. I wish all of your friends over at the Badlands Media, you guys just keep on rocking and rolling, and have a great day, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. And if you want to do this sometime in the future, let me know, man.
Oh, one more thing. Where can anyone who wants to hear you, where should they go?
Good one. So I have my website. It's jordansather.com. And when you go there, you can find links to a variety of the platforms. I'd say my main social media platform right now is Twitter. Probably. I'm quite active on Telegram as well, but not a lot of people use Telegram. So Twitter, at Jordan_Sather_ X, Twitter, potato. Rumble and YouTube are pretty equal for me in terms of longer format videos. So YouTube is Destroying the Illusion. Rumble is under my name, Jordan Sather. But yeah, under I'll shoot you a couple of links to put under the video where people can find all my links, because I also write on Substack and I shit post over there on Instagram. So I'm kind of spread.
I love it.
I'm spread between a lot right now, but I'll shoot you a couple of links to put in the description under this video where people can go find all my links.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, my friend. You have a great day.
Cool, man. Appreciate it, brother.
All right. Bye-bye.
What if I told you a truck driver cracked the code to building a crypto empire? Meet Bitcoin Ben. He went from driving 18-wheelers to creating 6 different ways for regular people to stack Bitcoin and build wealth. This isn't just another crypto course. This is a complete ecosystem where you earn while you learn. First up, the confidential bulk purchase program. Get Bitcoin at wholesale prices through group buying power. Then there's Home to HODL. Convert your home equity directly into Bitcoin instead of cash. Need funding? The Loans for Bitcoin program gets you the capital to buy more crypto. Want passive income? Private Key Capital puts your Bitcoin to work. Hungry for something different? Bitcoin Ben's tokenized beef lets you invest in real cattle backed by blockchain technology. And if you want to mine? Bitcoin Ben's mining program gets you started with the right equipment and knowledge. But here's the kicker. Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club pays you to learn. Earn 10% on direct referrals, 5% on second level, 2% on third level. This might be the only membership where you make more than you pay. Ben went from 10 years behind the wheel to becoming the world's most unlikely crypto expert. Now he's sharing everything through live training, community events, and proven systems that work. Ready to stop watching from the sidelines? Join Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club today and start stacking sats while building your financial future. Your truck driving days are over. Your crypto empire starts now.